Well, good evening to anyone that might drop by for a bit of a chat, if you will. This is a little series I have just thought of. Make it just a small thing. There's not going to be any particular pattern to it, or, you know, in regards to new films and stuff. It's really just going to be any movie I so happen to watch or really like and want to talk about casually. But I'm thinking of a name for the series, and so far, because I'm a sucker for alliteration, is Theatrical Teatime Talks. Because we have tea, we're talking, and we're talking about theater movies, really, cinema, or tea time theater talk, something like that. I'll pick a name later when actually putting in title on the video. Anyway, tonight I don't have normal tea, unfortunately. I have medicine, because I am a bit under the weather. But regardless, I want to talk about Godzilla -1. As you can see with my friend here, a few videos back I did a rundown of how I built this little model here. It's Type 3 Kyoryu in the colors of Evangelion. One of my personal favorites. Anyway, but yes, I am a massive Godzilla fan. It started when I was a kid and Blockbuster was still a thing. It was, let me think. I don't know how old I was. I was maybe 8 or so. And it was my Jaju, and he came down, visited, and took me to the nearby Blockbuster. And it was Godzilla 2000, particularly, was my very first Godzilla movie. And ironically, my second movie from that same Blockbuster was, I believe, Godzilla vs. Destroyer, which is ironic that my first movie was the first of the millennium, and the second movie was the last of Heisei. After that, I saw the 98 one, which... mixed opinions, to say the least. If you're in the Godzilla fandom, it's you either love it or you hate it, really. I personally am on the latter. I don't particularly like it. But I can understand why some people would like it. So, I try not to judge too much. That's their own prerogative. Anyway, back to the actual topic at hand. Godzilla -1. I'm in love with this movie. Because being a fan more of, and now this is again a split in the camp within the Godzilla fandom, people who like the more serious movies and people who like the more funny movies, the more comedy and just adventure movies. Again, I land in the camp where I like the more serious ones, like the original, because, in my opinion anyway, that's how Godzilla was born and first visualized and created, was as a monster, a villain, a more serious message. Only later did it become basically a kid's franchise. But regardless, you know, again, you're allowed to like what you like. And also, I'm not going to complain if the film, you know, exposes more people to the franchise. It's great. At the end of the day, I like all of them. But Godzilla -1, particularly is something I've been looking for a long time because it harkens back to the original. It's it's similar in its atmosphere to like Shin Godzilla, which I loved, and it just takes so many things I like and it puts it together. Because I remember years ago, you know, just fan fiction, like my brainstorming. I'm like talking to a friend, and like, what if? Hear me out. I know it's crazy. I know it's kind of stupid, and we already know how it would play out. But what if there was a World War II movie with Godzilla? So like the Imperial Japanese Navy went against Godzilla. You know. So instead of, let's say, like the Battle of Midway being an American, you know, defeating the Japanese carriers, what if alternate timeline or secret documents uncover it was actually Godzilla that wiped out the Kitabatai at Midway? Like, you know, something crazy like that. You know, we would know how it ends up because it's Godzilla, but what if he just fought like a World War II task force or fleet? This movie kind of does that. Kind of. But it also really is a lot like the live action of Attack on Titan, which kind of is post-war, you know, Japan type setting. It really feels like that. The opening of the movie is like a Jurassic Park film. It felt like it opened up as a Jurassic Park film, you know, for a minute. I'm like, this is new. I like this. You know, just from the very start, it was action. It was horrifying. You truly felt helpless. Godzilla felt like an actual force of nature, and it was good. This is another thing that it really gets into from the very start, is the human story, the struggle there. The human story in many Godzilla films is pretty weak. I mean, even in the legendary MonsterVerse stuff, it's, you know, it's kind of like secondary because it's a monster film. Here, I actually felt very invested into the human story. You know, I'm like rooting for him and wanting the whole situation in the human story to be figured out, and I really like that. It was good. You know, it's not something like, oh, come on, I want to see the monster action. It's like, no, I want to actually see the resolution of the human story as well as the action. That was real good. Just realized this is sitting up there. I liked it, but let me think. I mean, it was everything. It's kind of like leaves you speechless, that movie, because the effects were good, story, everything. The biggest thing I liked was all the vehicles, and you know, as like an Azur Lane World of Warships fan, I really liked seeing all the ships, all the tanks, all this other stuff, because with the politics of the original movie and the situation, the economics of the real world, you see that a lot of the planes and the tanks and stuff are American weapons and American vehicles in the original, right? The original 54 film, Chaffee tanks and stuff. With this film, you see that, no, they're using Type 3 Chinus, they're using, you know, Japanese destroyers and planes and cruisers. They're using more historically accurate stuff that Japan would have at its disposal in an alternate timeline where they were allowed to keep some of their wartime stuff. So seeing that was really cool, you know. I know a lot of people have seen it, a lot of people haven't seen it. The scene with the cow was amazing. That was... Watching it for the first time was a roller coaster. Because I watched it twice. I went and saw the movie twice. On opening day once, and then another time just today. But even the second time, like, knowing what would happen, I'm like, like bracing myself in my chair, like, it's just... Some people might argue what's the saddest, most impactful part of the movie, but for me, I think that one was, because it's the first time you see his true power. Plus, me, again, being the more Navy ship nerd, that Takao was such a beautiful ship, alright? Say what you want about Japanese ships, some people say, like, the Fusos were ugly or something. It's like, Takao was such a beautiful heavy cruiser, and it hurts so much watching that scene. I started tearing up watching that scene, man. Oh. And then the Ginza district, that scene with the tanks firing, the Type 3s they looked like, all of it just was amazing. And yeah, of course, at the end, Yuka Kaze still survived. The lucky the luck vampire that ship was, survived the war, survived Godzilla even. So, go figure. It was such a great movie, though. I don't know. There's a bit of debate on what was on her neck at the end. Whether it was like some Godzilla mutation, like, infection or radiation poisoning that was just super aggressive. I've heard different theories. But it looks, and there's rumors already of a sequel, like of continuing this. I'm hoping this is like legitimately another era, Showa, Heisei, Millennium, Reiwa, and now what we have, whatever this is. I don't know if this is continuation of Reiwa or maybe a whole different one. I don't know. I'm hoping that this is a whole new era and we get a bunch more films, right? From Toho themselves. The Monsterverse, Legendary Pictures, the Western films, again, those are great. What's the next one? Godzilla. I guess Godzilla and Kong are teaming up this time. They seem to be teaming up against some other, like, Kong-esque looking giant ape. I don't know who that is or what that is. Could it be the Gargantuans? I don't think so. I don't think so. No. I don't know if that would make sense. But, a lot of people were thinking, who are they going to go against? Because technically, Ghidorah's dead in that timeline. Godzilla ate him. There were some people theorizing it could be Destroyer, because, like, one of the claws in the courtyard scene, I don't know. But let's back to -1. I keep going off track. The ending, not where he's regenerating, but like the ending, like scene, right? I'm glad that they used more realistic things. This movie, other than the giant radioactive lizard, this movie was very grounded in realism, to some extent. You could make that argument. But as far as other Godzilla films, they didn't delve into like mind control and aliens and this and that. It was very much realistic fiction, in a sense. They didn't use an oxygen destroyer. So in this timeline, if they continue with it, Destroyer is technically not even a possibility. Unless that happens in the future, an oxygen destroyer in the future. I don't know. But the way, with the bends that they try to give Godzilla, that was nice. It was different, It was a lot more of a desperate operation of just see what works. You know, they're like, this is our best option. We don't know if it's actually going to work, but we can try. And then the message. I think at least people might get different messages. I've heard a lot of controversy online where people are like, finally, this film is anti, like, it's not woke, it's not this, it's not that. That's true. I think the message from this is actually just very simple. It's not anything political. Of course, there are moments where it's like, oh, we hate the government orders, but no, I think the greater message was the boardroom scene right before the operation, where he said, I want to do this where we don't fight to the death, right? It's more of, don't treat life so cheaply. Life is important, right? So don't just throw it away. Don't just die for some obscure cause or something. Like, fight for your community, your family, friends, that sort of thing. Those are important. You are important. That is the kind of message I got from this. From the movie, which is, you know, transcends nations, it transcends politics. It is a human message that, hey, life is important, right? Don't treat it cheaply. You know, because he said, like, what, they had poorly armored tanks, no ejection seats, kamikaze pilots. Stop throwing life away as if it's you know, a bunch of cards, right? So that was a good message, I think. Again, a more, at the core, a human message, which I think will allow it to stand the test of time, really. Much like the original. And on a brighter note, the music was spot on. A lot of good ambient tracks. Ifukube, you know, they brought back the classic, but they remixed it. They added their own twist. I like that. Very good. I mean, just all around, a very good movie. A very good movie. And I hope to see more of this in the future, like I said. So, that's just me kind of spitballing my ideas out there, you know, and getting ready to go to bed, because it is quite late, and, yeah, it's been a long day. But for anyone that stopped by, I think that'll just about do it. And let me know what you would think about, what you thought, if you got to see the movie, or, you know, if you were thinking about it. I would highly recommend it, you know, 9 out of 10. I don't ever want to give it 10 out of 10 because there's no such thing as a perfect movie. I don't think. But, yeah, definitely it's up there. I would recommend it. You know, even if you're not a Godzilla fan, because it's like my parents, they're not Godzilla fans, but they went and saw it with me, and they liked it. They're, you know, it stands out on its own. Even if you were to kind of take Godzilla out, like there is the message, the story stands out on its own, in a pretty good way, you know. So that'll about do it. Now, with those final words, for anyone that stopped by, I thank you for joining me tonight. And again, yeah, let me know what you thought and what you about the movie and about what some people are saying about it. And I hope to have a few more of these chats in the future about just any movie I happen to come across. Mostly to be honest, nerd movies, you know, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars type stuff, that I'm probably going to be rewatching for the millionth time. Until then, I hope you stay busy, stay healthy, stay out of trouble, and remember, life is worth it. Just like the movie said, it's not cheap. I hope to see you all next time. Peace.